Here we go again, another JStock Media Red Sox video, and for the first time we're doing this with Boston Sports Zone, so shout out to BSZ. New chapter, same Red Sox chaos. And I know what you're thinking. Here comes another rant. Here comes another video where I complain about the front office, the offense, the defense, the bullpen, the deadline, and somehow end up yelling about Craig Breslow by the 6-minute mark. But I promise you, this is not that video. Because fresh off a Yankees sweep, yes, an actual 4-game Yankees sweep, the Red Sox starters went 26 2/3 innings, allowed just 3 earned runs, and struck out 28 Yankees hitters. That is not normal, and that is why this video is different. So today, we're putting the front office rant on pause. For once. Because the Red Sox rotation is on an insane run, the pitching staff actually looks like a real foundation, and this might be the first time all year where the future feels like it has a pulse. The rotation, the pitching staff, the one part of this team that has not just kept the Red Sox alive, but might actually be turning into the foundation of whatever this next era is supposed to be. The important thing here is I am not changing my stance. I still think this team needs to sell. No need to spin it. No need to pretend a Yankees sweep fixes everything. No need to act like one insane pitching run erases months of weird baseball, bad defense, inconsistent offense, injuries, bullpen stress, and a roster that still feels incomplete. But this is why the whole thing feels different. Because before this run, the Red Sox were not giving anybody a reason to trust them. They were stuck in the worst place a baseball team can live. Not completely dead, not actually good, just floating in that annoying middle ground, where every win makes you think maybe they figured something out, and every loss reminds you why you were ready to sell in the first place. That is why the deadline conversation felt so obvious. Sonny Gray was probably going to be the big name. Veteran starter, good season, playoff teams need pitching, easy deadline math. If the Red Sox were going nowhere, you move him. You listen on other veterans. You admit the season is not worth forcing. And to be clear, I still think that is probably where they need to go. But starting pitching has a funny way of changing how you look at the bigger picture. Because when your rotation is bad, everything around the team feels broken. The bullpen gets overworked. The offense presses. Every game feels like a comeback attempt before it even starts. But when your starters are giving you 6 real innings every night, now the whole team has structure. And that is exactly what happened here. By June 29th, the Red Sox had reached 12 straight quality starts, just 2 shy of the franchise record set in 1988. During that stretch, Boston starters had a 1.75 ERA. That is not one guy getting hot. That is not one lucky matchup. That is a rotation moving like a unit. And the crazy part is, this was not the Red Sox suddenly turning into some offensive wagon. That is not what happened. The lineup had moments. The Yankees sweep was fun. They gave the starters enough support there. But overall, the offense was still the offense. Weird. Streaky. One night it looks alive. The next night, you're wondering if everybody left their bats at the hotel. And that is why the rotation run stands out. This was not the starters riding a hot lineup. This was the starters becoming the reason the Red Sox had a chance every night. That is the difference. Because when the offense carries a stretch, it can feel random. One week everybody hits, next week everybody disappears. But when the rotation is giving you real innings every night, that feels like structure. That feels like something you can actually build on. So no, this run does not mean the Red Sox should suddenly go all in. But it does mean this pitching staff matters. Because even if the team still needs to sell at the deadline, the rotation might be showing you what the next good Red Sox team is supposed to be built around. The thing that makes this run hit different is the mix. Because this is not some normal rotation where one ace is carrying 4 dudes and everybody else is just trying not to ruin the night. That is not what this has been. This has felt like 5 different stories all happening at the same time. You have Sonny Gray, the old head, the veteran who was supposed to be the easiest deadline name on the board, suddenly pitching like the dude holding the whole thing together. Gray is sitting at 9-1 with a 2.69 ERA. 75 strikeouts in 83 and 2/3 innings, and 15 starts. That is not just trade chip production. That is veteran backbone production. You have Ranger Suárez, the stabilizer, the guy who might not always be the loudest part of the staff, but every time the Red Sox need the game to calm down, he gives them real innings. Ranger is 4-3 with a 2.94 ERA, 92 strikeouts in 88 and 2/3 innings, and 16 starts. That is exactly what they needed. Not chaos, not mystery, just a real left-handed starter taking the ball and keeping the team alive. You have Payton Tolle, the young lefty with star energy, the guy who gives you that, wait, we might actually have something here feeling. And yes, young pitchers are still young pitchers. We saw that right after the Yankees start, when Tolle went from looking untouchable to getting hit around by Washington in a 10-2 loss. That does not erase the upside. It does not erase the stuff. But it does remind you that this foundation is still being built in real time. Tolle is 4-6 with a 3.39 ERA over his last 15 games, with 74 strikeouts in 74 1/3 innings. The record does not jump off the page, but the stuff does. The strikeouts are there, the innings are there, and when he is right, it looks different. The Yankees saw that firsthand when he gave Boston 7 shutout innings, allowed 1 hit, retired the first 16 hitters he faced, and made Fenway feel like a video game for a night. You have Connelly Early, the next wave arm with swing and miss stuff. Early has made 17 starts, has a 3.44 ERA, and has punched out 93 hitters in 91 2/3 innings. That is the part you dream on. The strikeouts are real. The upside is real. But he is also the scary part of this story now, because the second this rotation started feeling like something, Early left with that elbow discomfort. And then you have Jake Bennett, who might be the best feel-good piece of the whole thing. Bennett came into this looking like depth, and now he is starting to look like one of the reasons this run might actually be real. After Friday night against the Angels, Bennett is 3-3 with a 3.10 ERA and a 0.98 WHIP. And that start was not some cheap 5 and dive either. He went 7 2/3, gave up 5 hits, 2 earned runs, walked nobody, and struck out 6 on 92 pitches. That is a gem, and it is not just one start anymore. He shoved at Coors. He beat Garrett Crochet during the Yankee sweep, and then he goes out west, retires the Angels' first 13 hitters, and gives the Red Sox almost 8 innings. That matters, because he came back looking like a depth arm, and now he looks like a guy forcing his way into the conversation, not just for the rest of this season, for the future. That is why I love the foundation angle, because every guy has a role. Gray is the bridge, Ranger is the floor, Tolle is the upside, Early is the swing and miss, Bennett is the surprise. And when you put that together, it starts to look like something the Red Sox have been trying to find for years. An actual pitching identity. And that is the biggest difference with this staff. It feels like every night, the Red Sox actually have a chance to win. That has not always been the case around here. We have watched too many rotations where the top looked fine, but once you got to the 3, 4, and 5 spots, it felt like a coin flip. You know exactly what I mean. A Brayan Bello start where you had no idea if you were getting the good version or the version that makes you check the bullpen in the 3rd inning. A random depth arm spot where the whole goal was, please just give us 4 and do not blow the game up. A bullpen game where you knew before first pitch that the pitching plan was basically duct tape and prayer. That is what makes this group feel different. For once, the back half of the rotation does not feel like a disaster waiting to happen. It feels like part of the foundation. And since the start of June, this has not just been a cute little rotation story either. The Red Sox pitching staff has been one of the better staffs in baseball lately. Since June 1st, they are top 3 in team ERA, with a 3.80 ERA, 229 strikeouts, a 1.27 WHIP, and only 76 walks. That is the full staff, not just one starter, not just one good series. Not just one hot week. The whole pitching operation has leveled up. And then you add the 12 straight quality starts on top of that, and now it stops sounding like a random heater. It starts sounding like a real staff. And the wildest part? They are doing this without their ace. Garrett Crochet has not pitched since late April. He went on the injured list with left shoulder inflammation, then got moved to the 60-day IL after the lat issue slowed everything down. So this is not even the Red Sox at full strength. This is not the finished version of the staff. This is the pitching staff going on a heater while the guy who was supposed to sit at the top of the rotation is still missing. And that is where the future part gets exciting. Because if Gray, Ranger, Tolle, Early, and Bennett can give you this kind of run without Crochet, then what does the pitching staff look like when the ace is actually back in the picture? Because we all know in a month, Sonny Gray might not be wearing a Red Sox uniform anymore. And that is not me being negative. That is just the reality of where this team is. Gray is a veteran starter, having a really good season. He has value. Playoff teams always need pitching. And if the Red Sox are still being honest with themselves at the deadline, he is probably one of the cleanest names to move. But that does not ruin the story. If anything, it makes the story clearer. Because Sonny Gray was never supposed to be the whole foundation. He was the bridge to it. He was the veteran adult in the room. The guy who could take the ball every fifth day, calm everything down, and show this young staff what a real big league rotation is supposed to feel like. So if Gray gets moved, I get it. That is still the smart baseball conversation. But the bigger point is this. For the first time in a while, the Red Sox might actually have something behind the veteran. Garrett Crochet is still supposed to come back and be the ace. Ranger Suárez is not a rental. He is in year one of a 5-year deal. So he is supposed to be part of whatever this next version of the team becomes. And then you have the young arms starting to show up. Payton Tolle has already given you flashes where you can see the upside. Connelly Early has the strikeout stuff you can dream on. Bennett was supposed to be depth, and now he is making you ask if he belongs in the future conversation too. That is what makes this different. That is where Anthony Eyanson and Kyson Witherspoon come in. Because if we are talking about a real pitching foundation, it cannot just be the 5 guys in Boston right now. It cannot just be Crochet coming back. You need more coming behind them. Eyanson is the big one. He is already in AA, and the numbers are stupid. 12 starts, a 1.07 ERA, 50 2/3 innings, 64 strikeouts, and a 0.87 WHIP. That is not just a nice little prospect season, that is dominance, and the stuff backs it up. Fastball, slider, curveball, splitter, real weapons, real swing and miss. That is the type of arm that makes the whole Breslow and Andrew Bailey pitching lab thing feel real. Then you have Witherspoon, and his story is different. The full season numbers are not pretty. 13 starts, a 4.74 ERA, 57 innings, 61 strikeouts, and a 1.40 WHIP. But the important part is the adjustment. Since May 24th, he has started to look like the first-round arm the Red Sox drafted. A 2.64 ERA, a 1.14 WHIP, and a 35-12 strikeout to walk ratio over 30 2/3 innings. And honestly, this is where I have to be fair to Craig Breslow. Because I have killed Breslow plenty on this channel, and I still think a lot of the criticism is fair. The offense has been weird. The defense has been a mess. The roster still feels incomplete. The deadline direction is still uncomfortable. But if we are talking strictly about pitching, Craig Breslow has done a fantastic job. The arms look better. The rotation has structure. The system has actual pitching coming. You can see what Breslow and Andrew Bailey are trying to build on that side of the ball. The problem is everything else around the pitching. Because if Breslow just handled the pitching side and handed the keys to the offense to somebody else, the Red Sox might actually be cooking. Seriously. The pitching side looks like a plan. The offensive side still feels like survival. And let's be real. If ownership did not step up and basically offer Alex Bregman $40 million a year to fix the lineup, where would this team have been? We might be staring at year 5 with no playoff baseball. That is why this is complicated. I am not giving the front office a full victory lap, not even close. But I am also not going to ignore the one thing they clearly might be getting right. You can question Breslow's roster building. You can question the offense. You can question the defense. You can question the communication. But when it comes to building a pitching staff, this is starting to look less like luck and more like his actual strength. The Red Sox still have problems. They still need to sell. The offense still needs a real plan. But Breslow and Bailey might finally be giving this organization something it has been searching for forever. A real pitching identity. Not one ace and a prayer. Not two good starters and 3 coin flips. Layers. Options. Depth. A real pipeline. And that is what good pitching organizations have. They do not just survive when one guy gets hurt. They do not fall apart the second a veteran leaves. They have another arm coming. They have another plan. They have another pitcher with a real weapon that they can build around. That is what the Red Sox are trying to become. And for the first time in a while, it feels like you can actually see it. So yes, I still think they should sell. Yes, Sonny Gray might be gone. Yes, this season is still messy. But if the Red Sox can come out of this year with Crochet, Ranger, Tolle, Early, Bennett, Eyanson, Witherspoon, and a real pitching development plan that actually works at the big league level, then this season was not completely empty, because the Red Sox might still be sellers, but they might finally have the one thing every real team needs before it becomes dangerous: a foundation